nuestras casas, recibamos con un fuerte aplauso virtual a Stacie. Hi, Stacie, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm just starting my slides here. Can you all see them?
Yes, we can. So
Great.
the stage is yours.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you all for joining me in the session today. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Before I get started, I also want to thank Julia for an amazing presentation to start things off today. I've been a big fan of Julia's work for years, and it was fantastic to hear her talk about it in detail. I hope that I can provide you with also some inspiring things to think about this morning or today, depending on where you are in the world. So today I will be speaking with you about leveraging design methods in the design of informal learning experiences. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with such a diverse group of people because although design may seem disconnected from certain fields based on its native practices, I strongly believe that many disciplines have much to gain from each other and that meaningful points of synergy will arise from our collective conversations. Although design is often regarded as a discipline that celebrates a visual form and aesthetics based on its historical underpinnings, contemporary practice tends to focus on problem solving and communicating information clearly and effectively to its audiences. Here's a whiteboard from a senior project that I had co-taught with some colleagues where students were mapping all of the things that affect clean water in the Pittsburgh region. In fact, the practice of design has led the development and use of numerous methods and processes, such as behavioral mapping shown here, that aim to effectively tackle large and unruly challenges in collaboration with experts in various disciplines. However, the broad application of design approaches, such as affinity diagramming highlighted in this slide, remains relatively unexplored. Therefore, in 2012, Bruce Hannington, the head of the School of Design at Carnegie Mellon, and an alumna of our master's program, Bella Martin, wrote Universal Methods of Design, which details 100 quantitative and qualitative approaches to research complex problems, develop innovative ideas, and design effective solutions. It has had 2 editions, it has been translated into 9 different languages, and it boasts an ebook and pocket version. Their efforts, along with those by other practitioners and educators in the field, highlight the effectiveness of design-based methods when engaged in problem solving. The field of design is also pioneering the development of cross-disciplinary approaches to collaboratively overcome societal, technological, environmental, economic, and political obstacles. For over a decade, Terry Irwin and Gideon Kozoff, who are both faculty members in the School of Design, have focused their research efforts on working with communities to identify the root causes of systemic problems they face and assist them in envisioning and realizing new states that resolve issues for all of the stakeholders involved. Their work has given rise to transition design, which also serves as the basis of our doctoral program. To aid your understanding of the roles that design can play in tackling contemporary challenges, I will highlight a few design-based methods and approaches that are practiced in design research and transition design through the lens of a case study that is situated in a course that I teach, entitled Designing Experiences for Learning. I intend for it to serve as a basis for discussion. I also hope that by sharing facets of design processes with you, that their potential benefit to a range of endeavors will become evident. The course I teach focuses on designing experiences that engage people in educational activities that enhance their learning through meaningful, memorable, and enjoyable interactions with information, which is vital to the well-being and advancement of our society and planet. Before delving into a particular case study that emerged from the course, it's important to note that each team of students documented their thoughts and actions throughout the entire semester. They did this to consider what they had done, record their process, and guide the steps that they took. And this is something that I commonly do across all of the courses that I teach as a form of reflection. This step emphasizes the importance of reflection as a means of informing subsequent actions, which can propel thinking, reduce stagnation, and lead to innovative approaches in problem solving. The last few screens that I've shown you are from the students' documentation that they do online through a tool called Medium. It's very versatile. It allows them to quickly enter text and images that they almost tell a story of their working process. As a result, their documentation serves as a crucial component in their learning and movement through the semester-long project. One particular project that emerged in this course focused on teaching students to care for the earth through the food they eat. Over a 15-week period, a team of 4 students comprised of undergraduate and graduates in the School of Design, as well as a student in the Masters of Educational Technology and Applied Learning Science program, defined the challenges they tackled, explored the problem space, and proposed design ideas to address the issues at hand. They identified and defined the problem space for their project as follows. We are in the middle of a climate crisis on a rapidly warming planet. Our diets have been proven to play a large role in limiting our impact on the earth. The goal of food citizenship is engagement with the food system beyond consumption. If sustainability in food systems is not addressed on a wide scale, we will experience a fundamental shift in our environment as a result of the warming planet, breaking our existing food system. Therefore, our team aims to begin addressing sustainability in food systems on a micro level. We are building awareness of this importance and the connection between diet and the environment among first-year undergraduate students. Throughout the course, we studied a range of theories that are rooted in design, curriculum development, learning science, psychology, and architecture, to name a few, and strive to apply them in design practice. And I'll be taking you through some of these theories and approaches. One particular theory that resonated with the sustainability food team was the structured flow of goals by Sebastian Deterding, presented by Julie Dirksen in Design for How People Learn. In this model, goals are defined according to their scale and length of achievement. Those that are short are emphasized as they are easier for people to grasp and achieve than long-term goals. However, in attaining short-term goals, people in fact reach mid-term and long-term goals. They are cumulative. The sustainable food team believed that leveraging this approach in their design ideas would motivate initial participation in the effort, foster engagement over time as they achieve small goals, and encourage the building of new behaviors for people to adopt long-term. So you can see here the small goals, the remember and understand, those are the first steps in the process, and they hoped that by helping students achieve those smaller goals that they in fact achieve the larger ones. Nonetheless, the team did not start their projects with such a strong anchor. Instead, they reached this point by engaging in various design methods and processes to understand and work through the challenges at hand. In the first few weeks of their study, teams applied an approach that is often leveraged in transition design known as stakeholder mapping. This particular activity, this activity is particularly effective when conducted collaboratively by representatives of all stakeholder groups. However, given logistical challenges, the team conducted interviews, attended committee meetings, and ran cultural probes in dormitories with members of stakeholder groups to gather information and aid the visualization of their findings, which helped them identify patterns. So the little post-its that you see here, those are notes that they had in student dormitories. They had them on the wall, and they would pose questions, and students would fill them out. So it was a way for them to gather information from their stakeholder groups. In this process, a team investigates the problem space to define pertinent stakeholder groups. Representatives of those groups are then asked to describe their hopes and aspirations relative to the problem defined, as well as state any fears and concerns they may hold. So here are the 3 stakeholder groups that the team was primarily focused on. So they had freshmen, first-year students, local food providers, and dining services. Comments are color-coded and clustered by stakeholder groups. So here in green, you see the stakeholders groups, their hopes and aspirations. And that's followed by their fears and concerns. So you kind of see what they're hoping will happen, but also some of their reservations relative to the problem. Next, the research team assesses the post-its, looking specifically for points of affinity among the stakeholder groups, which are represented by the green lines here. So they're looking for those connections. But they also look for points of opposition, which are represented in red lines. So where are there points that the stakeholder groups may not agree? This step is important because points of affinity indicate consensus among people, which can be acted on quickly and yields significant positive impact. Points of opposition indicate areas where challenges may be difficult, as there are differences in perspectives. These challenges may be best tackled once other efforts have been realized and positive momentum is gained. So not that the designers or the teams working on these challenges can't tackle those fears and concerns and points of opposition, but rather that the points where there's agreement may be a better place to start. Based on their qualitative research methods, which included stakeholder mapping efforts coupled with the interviews and cultural probes they conducted and dining events they attended, the team decided to focus on first-year students at Carnegie Mellon because they learned that these students are in a transitional period of their lives and that they are adapting to independence. As a result, they believed first-year students served as excellent recipients of an educational experience focused on dietary decision-making. They identified existing tensions between the micro-food system on campus and students, as the majority of students seem to have a low opinion of food quality on campus. That discovery provided the team an opportunity to improve the situation alongside integrating sustainability education. Since all first-year students are required to have meal plans at Carnegie Mellon, the team focused their efforts on campus. They also identified residential education and dining services as key stakeholder entities due to their relevant relationships to first-year students. So as you can see, the team's starting to understand the larger system at play and who are all those stakeholders that they might be able to leverage in tackling an unruly problem. In an effort to understand the types of learning challenges that students faced in this situation and define preferred states and proposed ideas for mitigating problems, the team leveraged a learning theory described by Julie Dirksen in Design for How People Learn. I have translated Dirksen's work into a design activity that helps teams visualize problem spaces in a manner that informs their subsequent steps. So here, in this approach, team members trace learning challenges to their root cause, which are defined as linked to the environment, motivation, communication, knowledge, and/or skills. So they're looking for what's the basis of the problems that they're finding. And they they color-coded those Post-its. So using the same Post-its that were used in stakeholder mapping, they plot existing problems on the left side as the current state. They tag each Post-it with a sticker that notes the classification of the root cause, such as a motivation gap. Next, they use stakeholder comments to inform their definition of preferred states. So on the left side are the current states, which identify problems, and then the preferred state is kind of what they're shooting for in resolving the issues, and that leaves a gap in the middle. That gap is what the teams strive to bridge over the subsequent weeks through the proposal of design concepts. So that center area is where they're living as a designer, building the connections between the problems and the preferred states. In this instance, the team identified 3 major learning gaps in food sustainability education at Carnegie Mellon. They found a motivation gap where food sustainability is not a priority as school is demanding and incremental change over an extended period of time offers little feedback. They also found a skills gap where first-year students understand that a climate crisis is occurring, but they don't know what to do or how to help. And lastly, they also noted an environment gap. There is no curriculum to support students as they transition to a more independent life away from home, and they have limited accountability for existing resources. These are all places that they were finding opportunities to intervene. The students investigated several other learning theories and conducted design activities that aided their inquiry and the steps they took to solve existing problems. The format system created by learning theorists Bernice and Dennis McCarthy posits that people perceive information along a spectrum, where the form ranges from concrete to abstract, and they process information along a spectrum between reflective and active. The food sustainability team established relevance by helping participants grasp why the activity was important to them, and that is in the upper right, that Y quadrant, and opportunities for them to practice what they were learning, which is in the bottom right, that what. They then pose questions that prompt participants to consider how they may apply what they learn more broadly after they practice some of those activities. So the idea is to move them through the quadrant, the why, the what, the how, and the what if. Another approach that is leveraged in the course as a means of aiding the design of learning experiences focuses on a theory proposed by Susan Ambrose and her colleagues in How Learning Works: 7 Research-Based Principles for Smart Teaching. The framework explains the importance of understanding what participants expect and value in an experience. So one thing that we talk about often in design is that our motivation, the things that we value and expect to happen, may not be the same as the people for whom we're designing. So it's really important for them to tap into what's of value to these first-year students and what do they expect from the food systems on campus. Students' teams conducted exercises in class that helped them hypothesize their audience's values and expectations. It's important to note that with all of these theories that we were talking about in the classroom, all of them I had translate into design activities. So we're really looking at how to apply them through practice. The food sustainability team discovered that, 1, students value convenience and proximity. They want everything close, and they don't have a lot of time, so they want to get their food quickly. Students' definition of cooking is basic. They haven't had a lot of practice cooking, so really simple dishes. Students gather information by word of mouth. Their peers are very important to them. Dorm kitchens are a large barrier to cooking. Oftentimes, they're not equipped with pertinent tools, and things are not always in the cleanest state. Students also struggle to define sustainability. They can recognize it in the world, but struggle to define the facets of it. And lastly, they struggle to grasp their individual impact on such a large problem. Based on their discoveries, they proposed and refined their design ideas with the intention of boosting people's motivation to engage in the experiences they were creating. They have a large digital whiteboard. They use tools called Miro and Mural, and both of these allow them to do digital stickies. So they were building out this board, and this was one screen that I found really interesting between the ideas that they were kind of scrapping along the way, and then those that they wanted to pursue further based on their findings. The team sought to help students baseline their current diet, grasp the meaning of sustainability, see the impact of their diet on their health, see the impact of their diet on the earth, connect the earth's and their own health, practice small actions on a daily basis, and attend relevant on-campus activities. By the midpoint in the course, the student teams had amassed a great deal of information related to their topics, which they used as a basis for a wide range of appropriate design ideas. Although their concepts were well grounded in logic at this point, many of them remained conventional in their approach. Therefore, I conducted a design jam activity with them that I created based on topics introduced in John Adams' conceptual blockbusting. The exercises force students to confront their premature assumptions and provides them with the tools that enable them to brainstorm ideas that extend beyond the status quo. So here you can see they're playing with puppets, and they have a lot of make tool things that just force them to brainstorm ideas quickly, push their ideas a little bit further through some structured activities that I prompt them with. For example, relative to their plant parenting concept that the food sustainability team created, where students' eating habits inform the care of plants in a communal space that functions like an exhibit, blockbusting prompted them to consider and address broader questions. So who is responsible for maintaining the plant watering system? Who oversees the plant's well-being? Where will all of the water come from? How much infrastructure and cost has to be adjusted to accommodate these plants? As a result, their initial ideas evolved into concepts that take into account the larger system at play and are feasible to realize and also exciting to participate in. In an effort to further strengthen their approaches, the student teams engaged in an activity I designed that prompted them to revisit all of the theories and methods that we studied throughout the first half of the course. There's about a dozen of them, and encourages them to look for logical ways of applying these theories and methods to their specific projects and nesting them within each other in their construction of a design system that addresses the challenges at hand. So in this screen, the first post-its on the left, those are referencing different theories that we talked about in class, different approaches. And then the post-its that follow those are some of the ideas that they developed based on that. The food sustainability team integrated two theories, the cycle of practice and feedback model by Ambrose and her colleagues, and the flow of goals model by Dirksen. So this team was looking to nest these two principles together. The learning flow model looks at how to give learners a challenge, but then help them to plateau and kind of realize that they understand something and they can practice it before giving them another upward challenge. Whereas the cycle of feedback is looking for ways that the design system can give them kind of confirmation and support as they're moving through an idea or a concept. The team found that this activity enabled them to develop a solid learning plan that helped participants engage in challenging but surmountable activities to reach short-term goals. They also sequenced activities in a manner that enables participants to achieve mid and long-term goals. So what you're seeing here are kind of their ideas for those short-term goals. What would each of those individual activities look like, and how can they be strung together as a cohesive system? Their outcomes also function as a storyboard for conveying their concepts to others. Equipped with several design ideas, the students' team sought feedback on their concepts to either validate their direction or inform changes in their trajectory. Although we conducted several informal peer reviews throughout the semester, students participated in a few structured activities that encouraged formal presentations of ideas and comprehensive feedback from their peers. One activity, often referred to as speed dating, calls for students to work in pairs for brief periods of time before rotating partners. At each interval, one student presents a range of ideas to a peer who listens intently. Once the presenter has finished speaking, their peers provide pointed feedback, comparing the options in the set. The quick process forces both the presenter and the reviewer to be clear and concise. It also provides the presenter with lots of useful feedback in a short period of time. Based on the feedback they received from the speed dating session, the food sustainability made important refinements to the design system. For example, they enabled students to opt into the plant parenting component rather than requiring participation. Being mindful of social needs of participants, the team shifted the configuration of students' teams to be self-defined rather than randomized by the app. The team also changed the nature of an end-of-year celebration from being hosted by a local botanical garden to an event where students cook a meal together. Once again, based on the feedback they received, the students' teams revised their concepts and built prototypes that illustrated important facets of their ideas. So here this is a bit of onboarding where they're introducing students to the learning experience that they created. The team created extensive storyboards that took into account the actions that participants would take to move through their design system effectively, as well as the needs and desires of their users throughout the process. They created visuals that walk participants through each step of their system, and they conducted prototype testing with users to determine where people struggled. The teams used the information that they gathered to fine-tune the form and messaging of their concept, aiming to create an experience that is easy for people to understand and navigate, while also sustaining their motivation to participate in activities throughout the year. So this is, the projects are in decent shape at this point, and they're testing them out with students here to see how well they're working. It's the last point for feedback. As illustrated in this case study I have presented, the act of iterating on ideas throughout projects is a critical practice of design thinking that embodies making as a form of inquiry. The process also often reduces the anxiety associated with solving problems on the first try and emphasizes the value of learning through trial and error, with minimal investment and risk undertaken by teams. As a result, practitioners can implement several small projects that build on one another, which serves as a comprehensive and extensive collection of efforts that realize a positive trajectory. In closing, I want to emphasize that design methods such as mapping stakeholder relationships and diagramming gaps in audiences' learning and understanding can provide opportunities for collaboration among many people, discovery of important patterns in the analysis and synthesis of information, sharing perspective and consensus building among stakeholders, and illuminating potential courses of action. The intention of highlighting design processes and methods is to kickstart conversations that focus on their relevance, application, and value to a range of efforts that inspire new approaches to problem solving. I hope you find this information useful, and I welcome follow-up conversations with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacie, for your presentation. Now we're going to go with the questions of the
Sounds
audience.
great.
Okay?
Yeah.
Bueno, ahora vamos a hacerle algunas preguntas a Stacie que ustedes le han hecho en el chat durante su presentación. Primero la voy a decir en español y luego la voy a decir en inglés para Stacie. ¿El mapeo de los stakeholders ayuda a la toma de decisión para lograr apalancamiento institucional? ¿Solo una posibilidad o en paralelo? Stacie, does stakeholder mapping help the decision-making process in order to achieve institutional leverage? Just one possibility or in parallel?
I'll see if I have the question correct. So the idea of if stakeholder mapping can be used to leverage in some institutional, I don't want to say conflicts, but where there might be differences of opinions. I think it could be. Oftentimes we're using stakeholder mapping when we define a problem space that warrants some design intervention, and there's lots of different people involved in that process. And stakeholder mapping, although it's good for the teams working on the design approach to understand that, it's also a great opportunity to bring those different stakeholders together so that they can begin to understand each other's perspective, and it helps to build some empathy. So I find that it builds some momentum as the project's just getting started, and some understanding among all of those groups.
Okay. So now the second question. In Spanish first.
Sure.
¿Cómo desarrollaste el mapping stakeholder, la relación mapping stakeholder? ¿Podrías sugerirnos algún método o software para buscar? How did you develop the mapping stakeholder relationship? And could you suggest any method or software we may look for?
So I didn't develop the stakeholder mapping. That was one process that Terry Irwin and Gideon Kozoff, they had been leveraging in their teaching of transition design, also within the School of Design at Carnegie Mellon. I found that it had strong implications to the work that I was doing in the designing experiences for learning course. So a place where there were lots of stakeholders involved, and again, the importance of building that empathy. I would strongly encourage people to take a look at Terry Irwin and Gideon Kozoff's publications in transition design, where they go into stakeholder mapping in greater depth. And I would be happy to share the activity that I constructed to walk people through that process as well. Anyone's welcome to send me an email, and I'm happy to share that.
Thank you, Stacie. ¿Qué crees tú que hace una buena escuela de diseño para sus participantes? What do you think makes a good design school for the participants, both staff and students?
I echo Julia's comment from earlier in ways of fostering curiosity. I think that's incredibly important. I'm always in awe of our students because of the things that they tackle every day. I find it's a great place for me to learn, and I hope I inspire them to do the same. I also appreciate diversity in faculty and students, so that we can all bring our unique experiences to bear. I think it also helps us to gain better understanding of a range of perspectives. So I think those are things that I appreciate here at Carnegie Mellon. And also interacting with a range of disciplines. I find that I learn best and I'm able to do my best work when I'm working with people outside of design. I have so much to gain from them. So I'm looking for opportunities to work with a range of disciplines.
Awesome.
Mm.
¿Tú crees que las metodologías del diseño son aplicables para diseñar nuevas formas de pedagogía? You believe that design methodologies are applicable to design new forms of pedagogy?
I'm sorry, to design new forms of
Pedagogy?
I still didn't catch that last word. Sorry.
Pedagogía. Education.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. So yeah, I'm really interested in that kind of intersection between learning science and design methods. So there's a lot of fantastic ideas and theories that are coming out in learning science and adjacent fields. But sometimes I feel like they're a little inaccessible in practice. So I'm really excited to see how design and the learning science can merge to develop new ways of working through design challenges. In fact, this summer, I worked with a team of research assistants that graduate students where we were looking at the transition to remote learning and hybrid learning. And we were applying these methods that I've talked about in this presentation to this space and kind of looking at new ways to innovate learning remotely and in hybrid models. So yeah, we've been learning a lot from the application of those theories to design practice.
¿Crees que los estudiantes de tu curso los ves motivados cuando tienen que trabajar y aplicar metodologías a proyectos y casos reales? Do you see the students in your course motivated when they have to work and apply the methodologies to projects and real cases?
Yes, very much so. And I've taught this course probably 7 or 8 years now. And some years the course has been sponsored by businesses. So we've worked with a local medical facility as well as a banking business and some of our community museums as well. So we were looking at challenges that they faced and the learning challenges that they faced, and that served as a context for the projects in the course. And yes, the students are very motivated to do that kind of work. It's great when they can meet with clients too, and they're presenting in that way. Many of those projects then went on to be realized where the students were working either as interns for the summer, or a few of them were then hired full-time in those sponsored projects. So it's been a nice way to connect them. I think it's great when we can situate projects in the real world that they see the power and also responsibility that they have as designers.
Awesome. How have they been able to replace the methodological activity of analogous work in groups during the pandemic?
Yeah,
this is no face-to-face instances, and only or most of the process must be virtual.
Yeah, most of the process was still virtual this past semester. It was really amazing and inspiring to be teaching this group of students this past spring. That's the course ran throughout the spring semester, which is January through May here. And as in most of the world, we went remote mid-March, and the students didn't skip a beat. I think some of that is because they're so attuned to working with technology that they were just all in and wanted to make it work. And I was very inspired what they did and excited to work with them in that space. We innovated very quickly in how to use technology and still accomplish the goals that we had. So, for example, that speed dating session that I showed you, I had shown some images of students doing that in person, but in the spring semester, we did it remotely. And I just moved people from breakout room to breakout room, and they had to present with slides and give feedback, and they said it worked really well. So it's been great for all of us to learn how we can use technology to kind of fill in the gaps when we can't meet in person. I would also say that there are some practices that are actually working better. And certainly I want to get back to teaching in person and working with the students in person. But there are some things that we've learned to do with technology that I think I will carry forward in the course.
¿Cuál fue la etapa más compleja y la más fácil en este proceso? What was the most complex and easiest stage in this process?
Oh, geez. I think the hardest, I don't know if it's necessarily a stage, but what I find the hardest thing for students to grasp is how to bring all of the things that they're learning the first half of the semester, all of those theories and approaches, bringing them together into a cohesive system. But I developed an activity this past year to aid that process, and it went quite well, where I take them through a series of questions, and so they work through each one of them in class to get to that point. That makes it a little more manageable. But I think all designers struggle with that ambiguity and the kind of uncertainty of not knowing where a project's going to go, and still having faith that the process is going to get you to a good place. It's unnerving, but I think designers start to get more comfortable in that process. And for the easiest part of the process, I think it's actually at the end, where there's something that really special that happens where the students embody all of the theories that we've talked about throughout the semester, and they're just able to speak to them with such authority that information lives inside of them. And that's a very exciting and rewarding time for them and me.
Yeah, that sounds like exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, Stacie, thank you so much for
your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Have a very nice day.
You too. Take care.